before gunmen descended on rural communities in Kwara State, killing scores of residents and forcing many others to flee, there was already a warning. It did not come with gunfire or threats shouted from the bush. It came quietly, in the form of a handwritten letter. The letter, written in Arabic and Hausa, was delivered to community leaders weeks before the attack. Its message sounded calm, even courteous. The writers said they wanted to visit to discuss matters of preaching and guidance and urge the community to cooperate so peace would be maintained. Today, that letter is being seen for what many security experts say it truly was: a calculated signal, not a peace offer. A traditional leader from one of the affected communities who spoke after the attack said the letter immediately raised concern. According to him, it was clear that the message was not from ordinary clerics, but from armed men testing the community's response. He confirmed that the letter was escalated to the authorities and that security operatives were briefly deployed afterward. That temporary presence, however, did not last. When the attackers eventually returned, they came not to preach, but to kill. Villages were overrun, homes set ablaze, and residents murdered. Survivors escaped into nearby forests, while families struggled to account for the dead. Security analysts say the sequence of events fits a familiar pattern. One counter-terrorism expert noted armed groups like Boko Haram increasingly use advanced communication to assess state response. Such letters, he explained, help them determine how fast security agencies react, how long troops remain on ground, and whether the community is effectively protected or left exposed once attention shifts elsewhere. Another security analyst described the letter as psychological warfare, a way to place communities under pressure while shifting responsibility for violence onto victims. By framing their presence as religious outreach, the group creates confusion and hesitation, especially in rural areas where trust in government protection is already weak. The Kwara attack has also reignited debate about Boko Haram's expanding reach. Once largely confined to the northeast, the group and its splinter factions have been pushing into north-central and southern corridors, exploiting forests, porous borders, and overstretched security forces. Reacting to the killings, former Anambra State Governor and Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi expressed deep concern over the growing insecurity across the country. He lamented that Nigerians are increasingly being warned by attackers before being attacked, a development he described as a failure of governance and intelligence coordination. Obi called for a more proactive security strategy that prioritizes prevention rather than reaction. The president, in his response, condemned the attack and described it as senseless and unacceptable. He assured Nigerians that security agencies had been directed to track down those responsible and prevent further attacks. The presidency also reiterated its commitment to restoring peace and strengthening security across all regions of the country. However, critics say condemnations after the fact are no longer enough. The southern governors, through a collective response, described the Kwara killings as a grave national tragedy and warned that no part of Nigeria should be treated as a safe haven for violent extremists. They called for stronger intelligence sharing between federal and state authorities, improved border and forest surveillance, and sustained security presence in vulnerable communities. Several governors also stressed that early warnings such as the Kwara letter must trigger long-term protective measures, not short deployments that leave communities exposed once troops withdraw. For residents of the affected villages, the pain goes beyond the loss of lives. Many say the most troubling part is knowing that danger was signaled ahead of time, and that despite doing the right thing by alerting authorities, protection did not last. What happened in Kwara has become a sobering reminder that extremist violence in Nigeria does not always arrive without notice. Sometimes it announces itself quietly, wrapped in religious language and delivered by hand. How seriously those warnings are treated may determine whether lives are saved or lost.